Hello and welcome back to part 2 of Polite Conversation. Now I am rejoined by the lovely Jade Justine, who's just been to the bathroom, and we're going to dive straight into our question, which is, what's the most crazy thing you've done in drag?
So, I think the most craziest thing I've done in drag, I did my own cabaret at the other Palace, where I had a band, I had full backing vocals, MD, and I had, West End guests, including Alice Fern, which was just insane. It was something that I'd wanted to do for years, ever since I'd seen Valmicelli live at the Hippodrome Casino. And then after I'd done that and I'd worked with Alice Fern, and Alice Fern had said yes, I was like, okay, well, if I ask, you never know.
If you don't ask, you don't get.
Exactly. So I contacted Kerry Ellis, who was the first British alphabet, who was my first alphabet. That was a huge turning point for me. And she was kind of like a real idol in the musical theatre world. And yeah, she said yes. And I ended up doing a show called Alfie and Me, which was a chat show, which was just me and Kerry sat on a stage talking about her life and her career, sat next to her while she's singing on a stage and also duetting with Kerry Ellis. It was just one of those pinch me moments. It was like, wow, like I've achieved this. This has happened. This is madness. I'm on a West End stage with Kerry Ellis doing a show. What? This is nuts. Definitely a moment that I will never forget and will treasure for a long time.
That is a crazy moment in drag, I have to say. So you've done 2 West End cabarets. Are there any plans for any more then? I'll just ask now. Let the people know.
Well, at the moment, no.
Okay.
But just because there aren't any plans doesn't mean that plans will be made soon.
I think that's a little hint, which of course because everyone has to go, because I've been to the other 2, and they're both rather fabulous. The first one I was actually supposed to be in, though, wasn't I, Jade? But it's a moment we laugh about now.
It is. And you know what, people, this is actually tea being spilled, because a lot of people don't know this, and it's never really been addressed. But you were the 6th queen. You were there in costume. You were ready to go. You were rehearsed. And unfortunately, we ran over and you had to go to halfway.
It's such a shame, because, Aragon is probably one of my dream roles in that show. And alas, I didn't get to do it, but it's fine. It's still a very camp performance. And of course, you had Tia and Veronica Green from season 2 of Drag Race. And then you had the lovely Avocado and Poppycock with you. And now, now we've spilt the tea. I was supposed to be there. Okay, guys, the tea is scalding. Okay, so we've spoken about you meeting some iconic divas in Alice Fern and Kerry Ellis. Now we're going to talk about drag legends. So who are some sort of legendary older drag queens on the scene who inspire your drag? Like, who do you look up to?
I think when most people think of legends, they think of, the older queens, like Miss Jason and Maisie Trollet and queens like that. Whereas for me, when I started doing drag, one of the biggest inspirations for me was Drag with No Name. His star presence on stage, his performance quality and everything is just, absolutely. Like, and I still am in awe of Drag with No Name. Like, a lot of what they do with impressions and skits and stuff like that is something that I've always loved, and I've wanted to kind of make a part of my drag. Like with the performance, the nursery rhymes at Knockout and stuff like that was very heavily inspired by Drag with No Name. I'm not sure whether that's kind of now.
But when you started out, they were sort of some people that inspired you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is there anyone who inspires you today? And you can't say me, even though, you know, I am a very inspirational young woman.
In what context?
In terms of like what you want to do with your drag, is there anyone that you can look up to on the UK scene and be like, they've done it, I want to do that? Or are you carving your own way? Are you doing your own thing?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, you know, like with Val Michelli, who isn't really, you know, is more of a West End drag queen. She's not really on the cabaret circuit. But obviously she very heavily inspired me to start doing my cabarets in the West End and stuff. And I don't know, I feel compelled right now to actually say Tia Coffee, simply just because obviously knowing Tia on a personal level, as well as watching her on the show, I think just seeing her achieve what she's achieved and seeing her go through what she's been through on season 2 and coming out the other side, and, you know, everything with her music and everything like that just has really, really inspired me and given me a lot of strength.
Sort of related to people who inspire you is about drag families. So do you have someone who sort of was your drag mother when you were starting out, who you sort of still are in contact with, or any kind of sort of drag family?
I mean, you could kind of say Marty, but at the same time, not really, you know, like she's not a drag mother. I'd say probably Fanny Burns would be a bit of a drag auntie. Fanny really gave me the kick up the ass that I needed, I think. And I remember going and doing this gig, and Fanny was there out of drag, and just, it was just probably like one of the best gigs I've ever done. And the outpouring of love and support, you know, she really helped me get my foot in a lot of doors and guided me through a lot of things. I'm 100% missing names out. And if anyone listens to this podcast and like, I thought I was your sister, Jade, you probably are, but my memory is awful.
And also, to be honest, Jade has barely woke up before we started recording this, so she needs to have her coffee. Do you know what I mean? In the morning. Okay, Cam. You know what? I think I quite like that question about drag family, specifically because it kind of makes me want to do a weird like drag family tree. Like maybe I'll start an ancestry, do UK profile, and link everyone up, and that'd be quite camp. Okay, so, and on the subject of people who helped you come up, is there anyone who's sort of up and coming on the scene who we should look out for?
It's a tricky one to try and think of. I mean, for sure, Psoriasis, seeing her performance through Lockdown Legends, 100% is someone I'm keeping an eye on. Avocado, who did my cabaret as well, absolutely fabulous queen. I feel compelled to say Bonnie Bon Qui Qui and Beverly Tightlips in Manchester, even though they aren't necessarily up and coming queens, they are established queens in their own right, but maybe just not as well known as maybe they should be.
Yeah, and I think that's what I mean. It's not necessarily someone who's new and you think deserves a bit of a push up. It's people who you think are great and maybe don't get that recognition. So that's a pretty good answer, to be fair. Are there any kings you know that you think are like quite camp?
The only king that I have had the pleasure of working with a few times is Louis Cypher. And Louis Cypher is one of the most incredible cabaret artists and performers I've ever met and had the pleasure of working with.
Now, what's the best compliment you've ever received?
I can probably think of insults that I've received, but I can't think of.
Go for that.
The
then.
best
What's some of the insults you've received? Name names.
No. The one that's coming to mind is Kerry Ellis, because obviously before we did the sound check and everything, she'd never heard me sing, and her just being like, "Oh my God, you're really good, aren't you? Your voice is stunning, and like, oh, your presence." And her being, you know, oh, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure to work with you, and I hope we can work again together sometime. You know, that was probably like the biggest compliment I've probably ever received that meant so much to me. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, that sounds like incredible. Like, you know, one of your sort of idols says that you're great. Like, that's a great moment. I mean, that's probably going to be one of the most impressive compliments that anyone ever says on this podcast, probably, unless, you know, someone comes on and is like, RuPaul said I was the next RuPaul. Like, that's probably only, you know what I mean? The only thing that can beat that. Okay, fab. And on that same vein, what's the best piece of advice in drag that you've ever received?
Probably don't overthink it and be yourself. Don't just do things because you think people will like it. Do things that you enjoy and that you love. And even if it's a song that people maybe haven't heard before, if you're living your best life on that stage, performing that song, people will feel it. And that's all that matters. And have fun, fundamentally.
Well, I think that's the thing about drag. Like, it's about self-expression as much as it is about performance. So, like, I think if you're having a great time performing or being in drag or whatever it is you're doing, I do think that translates. And I think it's interesting. Like, you're saying, you know, you were told, you know, just be yourself and do your thing. I actually think it's interesting because, like, did you ever sort of have a drag character, or is Jade sort of an extension of you?
Yeah, to a certain extent, she was an extension of me, but for the first few years especially, it was very much a persona, very much switched on, and there was a lot of things with the character that I would never say as me and I would never do. And I think it also came from that place of seeing other drag queens being, you know, really bold and brash and blue, you know, and just being really filthy, that I kind of thought that's what I have to do. 2000, I think from like probably like end of 18 through 19, I think I started slowly peeling back the layers of this persona and letting more of me through, just going to be more me and just have the confidence in myself to be able to just be myself. Like I said, you know, before, in my whole life, you know, I've never really had people around me or strong friendships and connections. So, you know, I didn't think people liked the real me. So I put on this persona to try and get people to like me. But at the end of the day, people can see through it, and people much rather connect with a real person.
For sure.
And yeah, I feel like that's one of the things that I have evolved and will be very different now. Even from this podcast, I'm not sat here with my Jade head on. I'm sat here as Jade Justine, but I'm speaking from the heart. You know, I'm not putting on any front or any persona or anything.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's it kind of is important, I think, sometimes for drag performers to allow themselves that freedom to maybe just have a bit more self-expression and just be a bit more themselves sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because if you're always a character, you sometimes sort of become that character, and I think it can be quite isolating. So good for you. I mean, I've always felt that like my drag is just a sort of louder version of me. And I think that's the best way sometimes. Obviously, if you love doing comedy work or character work, like it's different. But you're right. You know, you've been very, very open about your like whole life in this chat, which obviously is going to go out into the world. And a year or two ago, I don't know if you would have been. So
no, absolutely not. I wouldn't have.
We're going to move on to a couple of like really fun things before we come to an end. So the first thing, what is something that has been happening in the news this week that's brought you joy? What's something you've seen on the news or heard about that just made you happy this week? Or just something about life that has made you happy this week?
I think this week is the wrong week to ask that question.
You know what? Something that brought me joy this week was seeing the first big girl winner of Drag Race UK.
That wasn't this week though. That was last week.
Yeah, but it's in the last week, so it counts.
Okay, all right.
Because if you're saying this week, okay, guys, we're filming this on Tuesday. Jade expects me to choose something from today or yesterday in the news. No. In the last week or two, something that has brought you joy,
Right.
that has happened in the world or that you've seen on the news.
I mean, there's not really been that much in the news and in the world that has been positive in the past week or so, to be honest. But I think the vaccines and that they're starting to be rolled out now, and people are having them, and people are okay, having the vaccines, and I think that is very, really positive, and it gives me a lot of hope that hopefully we can be out of this sooner rather than later.
Can I get an amen up in here? No, for sure. I mean, I know some people who've started to have their vaccinations. It's a good sign of good things to come. And also it's really nice because it means that venues can start booking things in again so we can get working. And it means people can come see us live very soon, hopefully. So
fingers crossed.
Okay. Who's your current celebrity crush?
Yeah, but I don't have one.
Okay, top three then.
I mean, ultimately, Tom Holland. Just I can't look at a picture of Tom Holland without feeling things in the nether regions. And then going off Julie and the Phantoms, you're not going to know who these people are, but
no.
Charlie Gillespie and Owen Patrick Joyner. Oh, I tell you something. They are wonderful, wonderful, lovely.
Okay, so Jade's gonna kidnap them. So if they go missing, you know where to find them. Okay. So what's your favorite song to perform when you do shows?
See, this changes all the time. But I feel like the obvious Jade Justine answer, and the answer that I'm gonna give rather than sat here for 10 minutes trying to think, like I have been for some of these questions, I think I'm gonna have to say Defying Gravity. It's a song that I've been singing before I even started doing drag, and when I was at college, and I would constantly be singing it. And I remember my lecturer saying to me, you need to stop singing this song. You need to stop singing these like powerhouse female musical theatre numbers, because you're not going to get anywhere by doing these. You need to start singing men's songs.
How heteronormative.
And then now I'm making a living getting on stage as a woman singing Defying Gravity every gig. So it's kind of, You
told them.
Yeah.
There's the thing about it as well, about singing and acting and like being a sort of creative child who likes performing stuff. Like, I think I'm probably the same as you. Like, I grew up much identifying a lot more with female roles and female songs and shows. And I was always just like, oh, I really wish I could just do those roles because they're so much better. Yeah. And now, we've grown up, we have the opportunity to do exactly that every night of the week if we want in drag. So it's amazing.
Absolutely. And I'm going to say this right here, right now. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know what capacity it's going to happen, but I will play Alphaba one day. I'm going to make it happen.
Folks, she's going to be at the Southend Panto as Alphaba.
No, I'm thinking more of like an all drag concert version of Wicked, where
like the Holland, is it Holland Park open air theatre? That would be very
Regent's Park.
Regent's Park, that's the one.
Yeah, I mean that would be the aim, but I'm more thinking a back room at the Brewers, being realistic.
Well, yeah, let's be honest. One day, unless, maybe one day you do get on Drag Race and then maybe that could happen for you. You don't know. Davina De Campo's just done it. She's in drag on the West End in Chicago. Well, I think it's a touring production, but that's still just as impressive. I don't know any drag queen who's ever gone into a tour or the West End to do a non-drag character. So snaps for Davina. And maybe one day that will be you. That would be so exciting.
I mean, Mary Sunshine has always been played by a male identifying actor.
Oh, has it?
Yeah.
Ah, I see. I didn't know that. Okay.
It's just never been played by a drag queen. It's always just been, yeah. So you are still right in that, like, Davina has been cast and is being, promoted as Davina De Campo as Mary Sunshine, whereas before it's just been a male identifying actor.
Well, it's still a first. Good for her. Like, she's breaking boundaries, destroying the patriarchy, as Bimini might say. This whole conversation about one day maybe doing West End or going on Drag Race or being Elphaba actually ties very much into my next question, which is what are your dreams for your drag? What do you want to do? And I think we kind of touched upon a lot of that. You want to do the West End. You want to do those roles that you've always wanted to do. But is there anything else that you would like to do with your drag?
I mean, yeah, I would love to. I would love to carry on with these cabaret shows. Maybe find a venue somewhere to have like a monthly residency rather than just have it as a one-off cabaret. Maybe do like a monthly residency with West End stars. A dream is to play Hedwig in a West End revival of Hedwig and the Angry Inch. That is a big dream. Obviously, I would love to do Drag Race someday when I'm ready. And yeah, I would also love to do music. I would one of my biggest dreams since I was a child was to represent at Eurovision. Just there's so many things that I would love to do with my drag. Yeah. So who knows? Who knows one day?
Well, do you know what? As a wise queen once said, the world is your oyster card. Where is my oyster? God,
yeah.
That song? Shikonda, who now lives in Brazil on a farm with her husband.
Very wow, does she?
Yeah. If you've not watched it, go and Google "Where is my oyster card." That's all we've got time for, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you so much to Jade. I hope you had a lovely time.
Yes, thank you for having me. I can't believe it's the end.
I know. We just came to, well, what better way to end the podcast than to discuss your dreams and aspirations and look forward to the future? We started the podcast learning all about your origins, and now we're learning about where you're going. So I think it's the perfect way to end.
I agree. I think I was just carried away. I was just having a lovely time in a chat for you. I think I was ready for it to end, dear. That's all.
Just having a lovely, polite conversation. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, dear.
Well, this is our first pilot test version of the podcast. That I'm sure there'll be some teething problems, but I've had a lovely time, and thank you so much for joining me. I hope everyone who's listening has learned some fun things about Jade. As I said before, make sure you go follow her on all her social media platforms. Where can people find you, Jade?
So you can find me on YouTube if you search Jade Justine. I'm on Instagram at Jade Justine _JJ, I believe. I'm on Twitter at Jade Justine _ and I'm on Facebook. Basically, I have different handles for every social media because I'm an idiot.
I'll put all the links to Jade's socials down below if you want to follow her. And if you enjoyed yourself, go like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends this video, and show us some love on PayPal. I'll link everything down below. But yeah, come along with me on this journey, everybody. I'm basically just doing this podcast so that I can get to know people and have some nice chats. So it should be rather camp. Tune in next time for another edition of Polite Conversation. I've been Pixie Polite. Thanks and good night. Goodbye. Thank you for listening. Yay.
Bye.
We'll play the outro music here. Spread a little bit of pixie dust by liking, commenting, and subscribing to my channel.